In tonight's headlines, the rush is on with Hongkongers returning home after their Christmas holiday. There's little festive cheer for retailers as consumers tighten their purse strings. And Palestinians wounded in Israeli airstrikes face a bleak future.
The four-day Christmas weekend is drawing to a close, and many Hongkongers who left the city are making their way back home in time for work. Holidaymakers flock to entry points at the end of the break. This woman, who returned from Huadu in Guangzhou, said there are not many places in Hong Kong to go to during the festive holiday. The hotel was at least 50% cheaper on the mainland, she added. This man agreed, saying the mainland also has more variety for entertainment and dining. He noted that the cost of his four-day trip to the north was equivalent to having a Christmas feast in the SAR. Many travelers preferred crossing the border via the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge instead of taking high-speed trains. Some queues at the bridge's bus stop even stretched to the entrance of the arrival hall. But this woman said it took her only around an hour to pass through immigration on her way back from Macau. It was much smoother than expected, she added. This man was among those who decided to head back early to avoid the crowds, saying in the past he used to return after dinner. Around 1.8 million travelers left the city in the past 3 days. As of 4 p.m., over 210,000 returned home, with a rush expected to gather pace at night. Janice Low, Cable News. Streets were packed for Christmas, but many people stayed away from shops. Lawmaker Peter Hsu, who represents the retail sector, was disappointed that an expected business boom did not happen. Taking to the airwaves, the Liberal Party chairman said the jewelry industry was eyeing a revenue increase of at least 10%, but the amount taken in was the same as last year. Hsu noticed that business in stores in tourist hubs performed only slightly better than in other districts. Although a cosmetics chain store reported double-digit growth in sales, Hsu pointed out that it offered discounts to lure consumers. He added that the buying power of both locals who remained in Hong Kong during the long holiday weekend and tourists was weaker than before the pandemic. Even entertainment hotspot Lan Kwai Fong felt the pinch. Anthea Chung, director of the Lan Kwai Fong Association, said last year restaurants were fully booked 2 weeks before Christmas. But this Christmas, there were still places available. The average expenditure per person was over $1,000. The same as last year. Chang hopes the authorities can lure more tourists by holding international music festivals with well-known performers. Hsu, meanwhile, urged the public to wear a big smile and be friendlier to visitors so that they will promote Hong Kong when they return home. Janice Low, Cable News. A Hong Konger has succumbed to injuries suffered in a traffic accident in Shaoguan in neighboring Guangdong province. The accident happened on Christmas Day, but was only reported today. Confirmation was provided by the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office in Guangdong. It was informed last night that 3 Hong Kongers were in a mainland licensed car when the accident happened. 1 died and 2 were injured. Officials are staying in contact with the injured Hong Kongers and have offered assistance to the families of all the victims. The government has been urged to crack down harder on homeowners who build illegal structures or encroach on public land. The call by surveyor Vincent Ho came after the owners of 20 luxury homes in Bili Peninsula in Tuen Mun were ordered to dismantle unauthorized structures and stop occupying government land. Ho said some homeowners have signed a short-term lease to use government land, but exceeded the terms of the agreement. He urged the authorities to speed up prosecution and increasing penalties for offenders. Ho added that the Lands Department and the Buildings Department should set up a reciprocal notification system to tackle unauthorized construction work on public land. Many parts of Gaza are shrouded in smoke as Israel defied growing appeals for a ceasefire and vowed to bombard the besieged enclave until Hamas is destroyed. Despite calls from its staunchest ally Washington to minimize civilian casualties, the Palestinian death toll has continued to climb. Almost 21,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israel's military retaliation for a Hamas attack 11 weeks ago. Much of Gaza has been reduced to rubble, and most of its 2.3 million people have lost their homes. There are increasing worries that many Palestinians will also succumb to hunger, disease, and their injuries because not enough essential supplies are reaching Gaza.
For thousands of Palestinians wounded in Israeli airstrikes, the future is bleak. And the present remains a nightmare as the few Gaza hospitals that are still operating are ill-equipped and understaffed. Rehabilitation facilities for those who lost limbs are non-existent. Nawal Jabbar is desperate after losing both her legs in a bombing. It has paralyzed my life, she said, as she recovers from her life-changing wounds in Al-Aqsa Hospital in central Gaza. I wish I can walk or stand, but I cannot. Jabbar's biggest despair is that she now cannot take care of her children. Shaima Nabahin had part of her leg amputated after her ankle was partially severed in an airstrike. She said her life has virtually ended as she cannot do most things on her own. The 22-year-old said her only hope is to leave Gaza and get a prosthetic limb so that she may be able to salvage what is left of her life. Many children who lost hands or limbs in the bombings are traumatized and need psychological help. Further north, this is all that remains of Al-Quds Hospital in Gaza City. It was destroyed in an Israeli siege last month, but gunshots can still be heard. For 39 days, the hospital struggled to provide care and services as the medics defied orders from the Israelis to evacuate. Eventually, the hospital was forced to stop operating after running out of fuel. Sachin Kadvi, Cable News.
For the second day in a row, Pope Francis has called for a halt to the hostilities in Gaza. In his Christmas Day message to pilgrims gathered at St. Peter's Basilica, he urged them to say no to war, as he denounced the manufacture and sale of weapons. Palestinian flags were waved as the Roman Catholic leader appealed for an end to Israel's military offensive in Gaza and the release of hostages held by Hamas. In Gaza, members of the enclave's tiny Christian community held a service in the Holy Family Church. They prayed for peace and an end to the suffering of all Palestinians. Many of them have sought refuge in Gaza's only Catholic church, but safety is not guaranteed. Kamal Ayad said his wife and daughter were killed by an Israeli sniper before Christmas.
More than 270 people have arrived in India on a plane that was grounded in France for 4 days for suspected human trafficking. There were 276 Indian nationals on board the Romanian-based Legend Airlines plane, which landed in Mumbai this morning. Another 25 had requested asylum in France, while 2 others who were detained for an investigation were released. The aircraft was en route from the United Arab Emirates to Nicaragua when it was detained by French authorities after making a technical stopover in Vatry Airport near Paris. The airline denied any role in human trafficking.
Russian opposition politician Alexei Navalny has been sent to a penal colony in Siberia, according to his supporters who lost touch with him for more than 2 weeks. The anti-corruption activist is serving a 30-year sentence for fraud, funding extremist activities and other crimes. Navalny was previously held in a jail about 200 kilometers east of Moscow. His new prison is almost 2,000 kilometers northeast of the capital. Contact with Navalny was lost after President Vladimir Putin announced that he was seeking re-election.
Several thousand people have gathered in front of the Election Commission building in the Serbian capital Belgrade to continue protesting against alleged fraud in parliamentary and local elections earlier this month. Many demonstrators marched to the main police station where 38 people are being held after trying to storm the city council 2 days ago.
We're here because we want to see real justice or even some bit of truth, and to see what is happening, and maybe to finally put the stop to this.
Opposition parties have rejected the result of the elections, which the ruling Serbian Progressive Party says it won.